Hi there, and thanks for tuning in for another episode of Math with Mullins. Today's notes we're going to be talking about lesson 2.3, subtracting rational numbers. So that's like fractions and decimals, positives and negatives. Today in your notes you're going to be looking at 8 different things, so just make sure that you're ready to get started once those pop up. Let's go ahead and look to see what we have next. So the first thing you need to understand about subtracting rational numbers is when you subtract them, you use the same rules as you use for integers. So remember when we did lesson 1.3 a while back, those are the same steps that we're going to use. The first thing you need to do is keep, change, which is your KCC, and then sing the song. You already wrote down the song yesterday, so really the only 2 things you need to write down are step 1 and step 2. If you'd like to jot down the song again, you're more than welcome. But just keep in mind the song gives you those rules. Whenever you have same signs, you add and keep it. When you have different signs, you subtract and keep the sign of the larger value. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to take more time to write down steps 1 and 2. Once you're done, click play. So this first one you're just going to watch me do, and then I'm going to have you try some questions on the next slide. As we're going into subtracting rational numbers, I notice that these are subtracting fractions. So what I need to do first is my first step, KCC. KCC is going to change that to -4 1/7 plus +6 sevenths. Now I'm ready to solve. I notice that I have different signs, so different signs subtract. What's my issue though is I cannot subtract the 1/7 minus the 6 sevenths. So what I'm going to have to do, which we didn't really go into detail with our previous lesson, is how to borrow with a fraction and make it available to subtract. So this is what's going to happen. I'm going to do this in a different color so you can see that a little bit clearer. This 4, we're going to borrow it and make it a 3. And since we took 1 away from that 3, we can now put this 1 with the 1/7. How I'm going to do that is I'm just going to add another 7 sevenths, because 7 sevenths is equal to 1. So now this fraction will change to -3 and 8 sevenths. Okay, once we have changed it to -3 and 8 sevenths, and then we have +6 sevenths, we can now subtract those fractions. I know 8 sevenths minus 6 sevenths is 2 sevenths, and then 3, I can't subtract it with any whole number, so that -3 stays the same. And I do want to keep my answer negative because my first value was also negative, and that's my larger value. So my answer for this question was going to be -3 and 2 sevenths. These next few you're going to try on your own, so you're going to pause the video here and try. Remember to KCC because we're doing some subtraction problems. Go ahead and click play when you're ready to check. Alright, so for number 2, we're going to go ahead and show KCC. I have 1/3 plus a positive 1/3. This one's super easy. I should get 2/3 as my answer for number 2. Number 3, a little bit different. Again, KCCing though. -3 and 1/3 plus -5/6. Before I can do anything, I need to have common denominators. I know that I can change 3 into 6 by multiplying it by 2. So -3 and 1/3 is actually going to change to -3 and 2/6. Still having over here -5/6. And noticing as well, I've got same signs. So I'm going to add and keep the same signs. So I've got 2/6 plus 5/6. That's going to give me 7/6. And with this answer, I cannot have -3 and 7/6 because this is what's called a mixed improper fraction. So what I got to do is break it apart and just kind of focus on this little fraction here. 7/6 will need to be changing to 1 and 1/6. And then you're essentially just going to add that back to the 3, which is going to give you 4 and 1/6. And got to keep it negative. So -4 and 1/6 is my answer for number 3. For number 4, again, keep, change. 4 and 1/2 plus -5 and 1/4. Different signs, so I'm going to have to subtract here, and I do need to have a common denominator. I know that 2 can change to 4, so I'm going to multiply both of these by 2. instead of 4 1/2, I'm going to have 4 2/4 plus negative 5 1/4. And I do need to subtract. Here's my problem though. It's happening again where my larger fraction I cannot subtract from my smaller one. So what's going to happen? I'm going to rewrite that so you can see negative 5 1/4 is the larger one that we'll need to subtract though. I need to borrow again, kind of like what we did on the previous slide. This 5 becomes a 4, and then I can add 4/4 to over here. So now this new fraction will be negative 4 and 5/4 plus 4 2/4. I've got different signs, so I'm going to subtract them. 5/4 minus 2/4 is 3/4. And originally my larger value was negative, so my answer is going to have to be negative. So my answer for number 4 will be negative 3/4. So I had a lot of work there. How did we do? The next part of our notes is we're going to look at decimals. Again, you're just going to watch this slide. Notice it's a subtraction problem. So I'm going to show keep, change, change. That's going to keep 12.8, changed subtraction to addition, changed 21.6 to negative 21.6. I have different signs, so I'm going to subtract them. It's important to always put the larger value on top whenever you're subtracting. Okay, otherwise you'll just get the wrong answer. That's something you should already know. I need to borrow, so this 1 will become a 0, this 6 will become a 16. 16 minus 8 is 8. I'm going to keep my decimal right where it is, lining up my decimals. Can't do 0 minus 2, so I'm going to borrow. This 2 will become a 1, this 0 now can become a 10, and 10 minus 2 is 8. So for this one I got 8.8. It does need to be negative because my larger value is also negative. Okay. Again, these are going to be trying some on your own, so go ahead and take the time now to pause the video. Remember to KCC. Click play when you're ready to check. Alright, number 5, KCCing negative 8.4 plus negative 6.7. I've got same signs, so I'm going to add and keep them. So 8.4 plus 6.7, that's 11. 8 plus 6 plus 1 is 15. So I get negative 15.1 because they're both negative, so I'm going to keep that negative. With number 6, also KCC, negative 20.5 plus positive 20.5. Here we go, additive inverses, that's just 0. That one should have been easy. And then the last one on this page, number 7, again KCC, 0.41 plus positive 0.07. Yay, they're both positives. All I got to do is add here. 0.41 plus 0.07 will give me 0.48, both positive. The last part of our notes is we're going to figure out how to find distance between two numbers on the number line. If you look over here, you've got a number line of positive 2 1/3 and negative 2 2/3. Okay? If you have an occasion where you're trying to find the distance between two numbers and they have different signs, you're going to add them to find the distance between them. If you have numbers that have the same signs on a number line to find the distance between them, you will subtract. Same sign, subtract. Since these have different signs, I'm going to add them. So 2 1/3 plus 2 2/3. So I don't even really have to worry about the negative there. The reason I'm adding is because I know it's going to take me 2 2/3 steps to get to 0, and then another 2 1/3 steps to get up to 2 1/3. I'm going to add these fractions first. 1/3 plus 2/3 is 3/3, and 2 and 2 is 4. This is not my final answer though, because 3/3 is actually equal to 1. So that's actually saying 4 plus 1, which is equal to 5. This next one you're going to try on your own. Notice that it says find the distance between negative 7.5 and 15.3. Negative 15.3, since they're both negatives, you've got to do something different here. I'm going to pause the video so you can pause the video right now. Click play when you're ready to check your work. Okay, since these are both negatives on the number line, I'm going to kind of give you a visual here. Here's negative 15.3 and here's negative 7.5. Not really drawing a scale, just trying to give you a quick example. All you're trying to figure out is how many steps does it take to get from negative 15.3 to negative 7.5. Since they're both on the same side of a number line, they're both same signs, you will subtract, SSS. So 15.3 and 7.5 I'm going to subtract. RO again. So they should be 7.8 steps away from one another. Cool? This is going to conclude our video. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, go back and review and make sure you double check to see what's on the board for you next.